But I do remember looking down the Bonanza lift line and seeing a chair with 4 people in inflatable penis costumes. The same as the T-Rex, but they're just big.
Those are weird. I don't know.
I mean, coming up on a chairlift, and they were skiing around.
I promised the inflatable penis story. You got it. You got 4 people coming up this beautiful scenic mountain. 4 of them on a chairlift, all dressed as penises. Yep. Our society, our culture is so obsessed with sex. And the only other thing they're not obsessed with more is money. Because that's just a means for more sex. So today's episode is going to be about sex and money.
Yeah.
Because why not? If everything just boils right down to that. Also on the show, the communication surrounding sex and money, and us trying to pretend that it's not about that. And now a guitar solo. Passing train 75 hauling beat dawns in Loveland, Colorado. Guys, I want to make this the most entertaining show you've ever listened to, but we're going to have to go dark in some places, super dark, so watch those tender ears. We're going to talk about tender ears and what they have to hear over there at the Mormon place. I stopped by Temple Square again just recently, where our Hitler lady was. I swear she was tried to dress like Hitler and it just didn't work out. She's like, oh, what should I? Oh no, I'll dress like Hitler. And her friends were like, you sort of still look like Charlie Chaplin. She's like, well, put some more lines on her face and stuff, and tried to do her best. But you heard her message last week. The Tear It Down lady was not there. In her place was Sam Young on his day 7 of hunger strike. So we kind of know how long she lasted. And he was on his day 7 of a hunger strike protesting the things that we talked about in episode, 5, I think, of this show. Now he's protesting it. He's a bishop they've come to him and said, now that you're a bishop, I need you to say these things to 12-year-old girl rape victims. And he, like anybody, was astonished that there were human beings that were being subjected by any organization, by any person. These are questions that are not to be uttered by any person, by any organization, and particularly not to my daughter, not to yours, not to anybody I know when they were someone's daughter. So here, I'm going to play some excerpts, and I'm going to tell you that I'm more than just laying down some. I've also posted his whole video online. He's another human being like you and me, and he's been asked to ask these questions, to stay on script. If all of a sudden you get a rape victim sitting in front of you, here's your script. And he said, like anybody,
I don't care.
Yeah, look, here he is.
You do not have the right to ask my child if she masturbates, especially at 12 years old. Do you masturbate? Did you get wet? Oh yeah. Did you get wet? Yes. The anger that arises in me when I think of what we talk to our children, an untrained man to a child behind closed doors. This cannot happen. Did the boy ejaculate in your mouth? I read that question. I cried. I don't know how much I cried. Think. A bishop would ask a question like that to a child. Did you like it? What did you do to egg him on? What were you wearing? Did you orgasm?
So I just think everybody's needle needs to move on this. If you're a compassionate person, dig deep for a little bit more to see what you can do to help on this in your own way. If you're not a compassionate person, you're cold on this whole issue, try to get a little bit of heat.
No harm, no foul. We just document this conversation, and it's over. And we're done.
with the eventual goal to completely rid the planet of the utility, the reason, the resources for any organization to have a platform to do this. It's like putting an open mic in a room full of comedians and expecting nobody to grab that mic and say something obscene. It seems if you want to find the perps, you just go to where everybody seems to be allowing them to operate business as usual. I'm just asking people, today, to take some special care today, to do something new.
He says,
bigger.
oh, by the way, my friend's going to be at the resort today. He's going to be, I think he's wearing like orange, and he's got these white, cloudy pants. You'll know it when you see him. All right.
Okay.
Like, I may have even told you about this. Like, okay, so an hour later, maybe, all of a sudden, there's just this scene, and there's this Asian lady goes, yo, you cut him off, and then there's this, oh yeah, man, you were, and then orange coat, cloudy pants comes around, so the three of them, they come to the stop sign, and they're throwing down. They're actually throwing.
We get throwdowns on the resort.
On the ground. So I get on the radio, I said, guys, this is not gonna happen. They keep throwing. I'm like, guys, you will not have a fight at my slow sign. This is not gonna happen. Oh, he cut him off. It was he cut him off. This lady was like in between the two people, and then I get on the radio. I'm like, you know, hey, 307 or whatever he is. We're about to have a throwdown here with a guys. Orange over white cloudy pants? I'll be right back.
So he had told me to watch out for his friend that was going to come and needed the special attention. And so what did this guy do? He took his special attention and came and turned it into him just being an awful person.
I saw you cut him off, you.
And then his wife was using him as like a shield. She would pick fights with these people and then have him have to come throw down for it. And these two were about to go, and I had to like stop it and then call the other safety patrol officer who comped these people, and I didn't want them to get in trouble with me because a comped person that gets in trouble is in even more trouble. I started to befriend some folks at the dog park, and I know it's them. I know it's this lady, and I know it's this guy. I'm just convinced that it's these folks. They're the nicest people, but they're at the dog park, and when they're at the ski resort, they take their privileges a little bit too far.
Okay.
Or, but just to all of us wait here, or do you want to post up at the different...
You guys can move on down now if you want, but, I'm just saying, we'll do this way and you can do the rest. But I think we gotta wait.
I've said this before.
Yeah, it's still sunny day. The sun's staying up a little
ski
longer.
resort is this beautiful sunny place where the sun is shining and everybody is happy. There's no cares. We talk on the ski lift about the things that are causing people grief, but it's to make us feel better. And when people take more liberties than they're allotted, the community lets them know, just like the dog park. Other big dogs let them know, hey man, that's ease up on the little guy. And every now and then something slips through.
And you will find I'm not that far away. Sunshade and rain. Every day is a sunshiny day.
Sometimes it's unintentional, but for whatever the reason, it could be avoidable.
You were busy, now I'm alone, and
Yeah, just hang there.
And we spend a lot of time on the ski lift. And today we're going to talk so much about, communication and all the different kinds, like communication at the dog park. And it's everybody just knows each other by the name of their dog, each other's dog, and
they think, oh, now that we're friends with Mountain Safety, that when we're ever around them, we can be crazy and do crazy, weird stuff. And I don't know how to deal with kids when they do that. Because that's like, that they know that, no, you don't have that permission, and your parents should have...
we kind of know what time each person comes. And I feel sometimes like, some people you don't know, and the only way you can really communicate with them is by what time they show up. And like, there's this one person that shows up, and we've been showing up at the same time all the time. And it almost felt like there was a commitment to show up at the same time all the time. But then there was like this drive to not show up at the same, trying to go off. But then we would end up hitting the same sink again. And it got to be awkward. And I don't know what the perception is. See, then there becomes a murky communication is happening with the limited details that we're giving to each other back and forth. But nevertheless, there is a communication. And that's the essence of the two things that I want to talk about in terms of communication. And you have a lift ride in your life, and it's something that you do. Maybe it's your car or your lawnmower or something, but you know it so well that if there's even the slightest, tiniest little problem, you just know it, you sense it, you feel it. It needs attention. And on the lift ride, I'll ride that lift so many times, so many days in a row, and get to know what normal slippage is, and I know what its purpose is, and what it's trying to do. So therefore, I know what slippage is when something is going against its design, against its purpose, and you can feel the slippage. Sometimes you can tell exactly what tower. Some of this sort of angulation that happens, that really, they're carrying this huge amount of weight on these towers.
The tower was, there's a...
He's talking about towers now.
Tower right
there was a tower for the old gondola, and when the gondola crossed, it was this huge chasm, 200 feet.
Safety person. You can have a free tour at the Park City.
I suppose this is all just building shorthand, and that's one of the shorthands, is that so I don't have to explain it every time, and because we need it. We need that tool coming up here pretty soon, where we start to notice things. We start to notice slippage. When I say slippage, now you know I'm talking slippage. The other thing is this idea of communication, and that's a little slickerier.
Yeah, Legacy Lodge, and you'd do this big line, and then you'd get 4 people in that thing.
And I've told you I'm a communication ninja. I want to make this show a very worthwhile endeavor for anybody who listens. That it makes them a better person without me saying, you go out and be a better person. It makes us all a better person, because what we have decided to do is make this show like a person. Just like, they make a corporation a person and give it a personality and, all these things. And when you start I suppose I don't have a Facebook, or I don't have those kinds of things, but when you do start those kinds of things, you're starting a sort of social personality, and the course, the decisions, the choices that you make are going to sort of be a part of that person, whether it's you or not. And there are, there was a quote I heard, and I'll find it, or maybe someone can help me out with, but it had to do with, look, if you're going to be persecuted for your beliefs, make sure they're your beliefs and not some character that you've come up with. I don't know. Is that enough for you? The point being that you got to stand for what you believe in. And I want to help people believe in some things and and help me stand with them, because I alone cannot do anything about these things. I hope it's super clear too, by the way, that I don't want Facebook likes. I don't want those kinds of things. I'm never asking for that on this. That's that you can help support the show in other ways. But I don't conk you over the head with it, and I never will, because I don't. That's what I don't like about traditional media of this thing. I like to just go and sit and soak and get really deep into the message, and not all of a sudden be interrupted. So if this is playing over some sort of, third party that is interjecting ads and things like that, I am so sorry. I had no control over that, and that's the last thing in this world that I want, is anything ad-based or that is going to add another element to what we're accomplishing here today. And that's just, like I said, it's a slice of life on a piece of earth that is sacred. It's set aside for people to be smiling and having a good time and not being worried about anything on Maslow's hierarchy, and just be able to just enter this place that we have in our mind that happens during guitar solos and no doubt ice skating events, and just live and breathe and start to feel more of the eternity that happens in our lives, and not be so caught up. See, I don't want to get caught up in all of these things, but they're what's on the docket, because we're also in place to look out and survey the scene, and very easily pick out people that just don't get it at all. And what we want to be striving for is adding years to people's lives. I would like that. I think that's the altruistic goal of everybody here at the ski resort, is we're all trying to, hey, you're doing great, it's looking good, I hope to see you next year. I hope we all want to see each other see another year. We don't want people getting killed in avalanches. We don't want a single moment of their lives to be tarnished by things and bad things and people that are in their lives that have just made them so hard or so callous that they're going to lose years off of their lives. And I've said, that's like, what's the difference between a murderer? Murderers just, they end people's lives short. And it's sometimes it's even cleaner than, and I'm not advocating, you know that. It's a ski resort, we're all friends and we're all happy. Nobody's packing heat at the ski resort. If they are, there's just no need for it. So far. The reality of that is that in life there's an ideal, and we're just not always hitting it. And so these people snap, like our friend Sam Young, like our friend the week before, the woman who just wants to see the whole thing bulldozed down. They snap because there's this fundamental problem now that they have a grip on it. They can see how it was from here and now it got to here, and so if this much time passes, it's going to get to there, and they can see just how widespread, how deep it is. Just like when Hollywood figured out, oh my gosh, there's people starving in Africa. They all ran out. Hollywood was just, everything was Africa for a while, and they joined hands and it was beautiful. And then it just stopped.
Unless you want to see these guys down. Cool, I'll give you it.
Not completely, but it wasn't like it was.
My best. My best roll.
And I don't care. People benefited from that. Africans, people, there all of a sudden were people that got that thing that happens in life when all of a sudden, when you were a sperm and you got through, it's like, yep, you're the one, go. What? Me? Really? So, yeah. It's happening. Get out there. Make us proud, buddy. 100 million of you, and you're it. You're the 1 in 127 trillion, or whatever the numbers are on that thing. So the second part of that equation that we talked about, one side being the dog park, is communication and that sort of passion to make connection with this other thing that's communicating back. And, and as usual, I'm going to spectrum this thing. We'll start on one side. You have, I suppose, I'm working it through, but I can see already the problems with this metaphor, but I'm going with it. You have a rock, and for the most part, most people think, well, you can't really communicate with that rock. When indeed we're learning that at least that we have a one-way deal going with some rocks, where they're communicating a electromagnetic or a fossil or a wave or some kind of a quartz crystal sending us a pulse. These are some things that are helpful to us to better understand and better uncover our communication with the past. This entity that is apparently gone because it's behind us and time can't rebuild itself, eggs can't unbreak, and neither can a glass of spilled water. So we've just figured that time just keeps marching on, and we can't really communicate with our past. And I want to say, before I get too lost in this little flawed rock metaphor, that a good message is crafted from the past, in the present, delivered in the present, for the future. It's strange, because how do you identify or categorize this or make them at the most extreme levels for a decent metaphor? And that's what I was concerned about. So, you've got this idea where we're communicating with the present, and the present has to do with a stoplight that's a machine, but it's programmed. A tree that is a tree. It's not. It's somewhat programmed. Another human being whom we can manipulate, lie to, and things like that. There's this threshold in communication that we pass where we can, fuck it. We can lie to it, and we can do things to something that we otherwise couldn't do. And in some cases, that's, we can kick it and it'll respond. And so dogs and even, other animals can start to fall into this category, even though it starts to be exclusively human when it becomes, an intellectual sort of pursuit of communication. And there's so many books, there's so much out there on that. I'm less likely to even go into a lot of detail about that, because I'm more curious and passionate about this underlying current of things that we communicate with all the time to some degree, but we take it for granted. As when I was changing the baby's diaper is where this sort of thought started to occur. And while she doesn't know the language, and while she doesn't have a lot of programming and stuff like that, she started to understand, what she needs to do to make the diaper change go a little bit easier, and where her legs need to know, we're at this part, and putting on the jammies and things like that. And I am communicating to her through her sort of instinctual, through her muscles and her memory, and in some cases through what we've now found to be a very significant organ is our digestive system, smarter than we ever had imagined. It knows when you're hungry. Look at Sam. He's hungry. Sam, you're not the same when you're protesting. And that started me to thinking about, how we can, with certain gestures and things like that, control our dogs at the dog park and move them around and do them because they have this shorthand and understand what it is that we're trying to get them to do. And so that's all in the present. I want you to think, I'm sure there's hundreds of thousands of other sort of things to expand on that. And I get lost in like, oh, there's this that's controlling this communication, or, you see people trying to communicate with a machine by pounding on it a little bit harder. It won't let go of that Twix bar, so they communicate with a force, which is usually the last sort of bastion of hope for the human being, to just force something for answers. Crash these atoms together and hope that some answers spill out, and they help us to have more sex, because we want to get the Nobel Prize. I'm telling you, sex is at the end of every one of these rainbows. And then, they get the sex and they can't get it up, or they need like Prozac or something to make it happen.
Last shares have been received on the Conkeys, Baines, and Christmas.
The real question, and everybody wants it, and I think this Sam guy is the way that we are, and we see it in a crying baby. When a crying baby is just throwing its arms out and being as loud as it possibly can until something different happens. And whatever that something different happens is gonna be from a power greater than the baby, to make this whatever other power that's greater than the baby, whether it's too cold, it has to poop, it's hungry, etc., will suffice. It's a very interesting, to me anyway, concept, because that's what human beings do, even when they're adults. There may be a distinction between baby and adult, but there are things that we do as babies that we still do as adult.
To know my name, or at least know who I am.
So you see a lot of people who want to come on and be born, and they have this moment in their life where they're like, I want to get the creator's attention. Right? Like this show, every time I do this show, I tell you, the first person it goes out to is our creator. I don't hear anything from him back. So either it's not so bad that God's going to prevent it from airing, or it's just not quite up to his level. I'm somewhere on the spectrum, which is fine. That's kind of where I wanted to be. Well, what are you going to talk about some days, right? We still want to communicate with that. And I know that not every, like, say, atheist or agnostic person is like this. But if you can imagine that there would be some people that would try this tactic. I know how to get him down. I have a plan to get our creator down, and then everyone is going to shower me with cash and sex. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend like I don't think he exists. Pisses him off. I'm going to pretend like he doesn't exist at all. Like you're not even my dad. Right? You're not even my dad.
I'm dead.
See how that plays. What about the other one? There's a similar approach. Is the guess who's Jesus now? Guess who's my right-hand man approach. The I'm the new God on earth guy. And it's perfect, because if you get God's attention, everybody is gonna love you because you brought him down, and you're the guy who managed to get him out of the bathrobe into some daywear, down to like heaven as it is on earth, and he's coming down with the peeps, gonna lay down some more scripture or whatever. So you either have that, or your worst case scenario is he never comes down and you're never busted. And so everybody thinks that, yeah, he's tight with the big G, so why? And you got more sex and money. In fact, that's really that's where you make the big bucks.
Shortcut has received last chair.
So that's my key to communication while we're thinking about communicating. Is that if I can look at those different areas where we're communicating with the person, and sometimes there's 3 or 4 different things, and a lot of things are non-verbal. You're having this communication with them, but there are non-verbal things happening. And people talk about cues where their hands are flying, or they open, or they close. Sure. But if you stand back and look at the whole picture, these story arcs, do they work? Right? You know, is this guy still... He's on this hunger strike. He's got this protest going. He's doing all of this stuff because of all his concern, but all his language is all still very, very, very much part of the propaganda. It's this propaganda language that smuggles in their belief system just by designating and calling it a church. All of a sudden, you're acknowledging that that's what it is and what we all think of what a church does and is, but that in this case isn't at all what it is. So it's not an appropriate term. But so when people use it and sanctify it with some of these other terms, you just not even. It's like he's like in a building that's burning, as we've discussed, and saying, "Hey, everybody, this building's burning." But don't leave. Stay here. The guys who set the fire, they're gonna come as soon as they hear me shouting. They're not gonna do it, but they hear the victim shouting because they're tired of hearing victim shouting. It's clear. They've made that clear. But when they hear me, another one of them, a bishop, for crying out loud, I'm a nice guy. I'm from Texas, so they'll listen to me. And they're not. In fact, what they said is, we've heard what Sam has to say, and there's no further input needed. From on his 7th day, no further input, Sam. Thanks, we got the message, and no further input is needed. Plus, when you look at the story arc of his cash flow, which he says is totally running out, this isn't the guy that's going to stay at the Hilton and be on this hunger strike till the end. So the Mormons in this case get the win on this one, because this guy is done with his strike, goes home in disgrace and shame. They run him through all sorts of courts and all sorts of stuff that doesn't matter to you and I outside of it. It has zero currency to anybody outside of it, but to the people inside of it, and all of these courts and worthiness assessments and punishments that have to be endured as a result. Unfortunately, he either is going to have to make a complete psychic change, or it doesn't end well for folks like this. And that's just plain hard reality. We all, as residents here, have just come to just know these people. As you can see, I don't necessarily believe in anything other than love and anything other than compassion and shining a light of truth on all of this. Because that is the language of eternity. And if we're going to speak with the future, and if we're going to speak with eternity, that's the only language that it hears. Right? Because lies, we know, don't last. That's the one thing about a lie that we know, is that it don't last. So it can't be the language of eternity. But a rock is a rock is a rock, as far as we can tell. And there it is. A rock is crying out and speaking to us from the past to the future. And as far as it's concerned, because of the age of some of the things these rocks are telling us about, it is telling us, speaking from the past to eternity, and it only tells the truth. Right? This was a bug. It's not like this was a good bug. He lived a good life. He was not a very good tennis player. No, it does not give you any other details. It just gives you the truth. It lays it out. And the more you look, the more truth you find about the weather conditions at a certain time, or the climate, or all the things that the rocks can tell us. I'm not even in that field, so I may sound like a dope to a lot of people right now, but I think that we can all agree that we're starting to uncover things from the past that are enlightening the future, and that could otherwise be eternity. Guys, you know I never want to be preachy, anything like that. But this truth thing has got some wheels. For everyday living, scalable all the way up, you know, for the millennia or whatever you'd call that. And you just start by just practicing it. I'm going to be there too. Be there too. We're going to do this thing. We do the thing. Every day, I'm going to do this and do it. Look at that. God, you're a prophet. The message of Jesus is 2,000 plus. It's been scrutinized. Enough people have looked at it that I'm not going to turn my back on it.
Right.
The message of the Mormons, same thing, been scrutinized, been looked at very carefully. Science has offered some evidence. Different people from different places have offered some very compelling evidence that it's not going to last nearly as long as the message of, Jesus and Muhammad and Buddha, some of these other prophets that had a message that was not anything more than rooted in truth and love. So I just want to follow that example, because I know that I've gotten off track here sometimes, and it may sound to some people unloving, or maybe in some cases even capricious and lacking vision of what the future may bring. And it's a matter of perspective quite often. The overall reality is that you are just where you are, and you have to just take that has to be your baseline. And you're on that ski lift, and when you notice and feel that slipping, then you take note. Flags go up. This is usually like this, but this is for some reason, this person's story is going this way. This person's story is going this way, but their life story, the language that they speak, is going this other way. And I know that quite often people will overinflate themselves and say, I'm this and that and this, and I'm not sure that that's really exactly what we're talking about. But there is a level of honesty there.
What a fine. Did you really stick a safety sticker on that kid's helmet? Oh, they were giving a serious lift.
I got you. So
somebody, you can tell if somebody's into you, or if you're into somebody, and it's in an awkward sort of place. Right? Do you know that? So there's a communication happening there at a level. There's no words, there's no nothing. You just know it. You feel it, you sense it. Your ass gets all kinds of hot and sweaty. We have those discussions with another person, and they're quite often not even of the same expected gender. Those are conversations, and we haven't been trained we don't know how to break apart those sentences. We just go with those conversations. We're street smart. We're going with our gut. Well, again, I think that we need to shine some light on those types of conversations.
You did it. It's hard to believe.
How's your toes?
They're all right. They're not freezing. I put the big socks. The only thing I can do is fill in the gap.
And make sure that we're speaking in truth, and that our truth is very much attached to the light that's within that other person. Because when you know the truth, then you know that person that's sitting across from you is connected to you so intimately, no matter who it is, that when you hurt them, you hurt yourself. Holding a grudge is you drinking poison that you hope they die from.
Olympic hopeful.
When you help them, you help yourself. You don't see it that way, and you don't. And so many people say, no, if I give this homeless person money, they're going to just go buy a bottle and they're going to just hurt themselves more. When other perspectives might say, no, that person's going to go, you're right, they'll get the bottle, but it'll be their last bottle because they'll hit their final bottom and they'll look to the sky instead of, so your dollars did it, got them, and that, in some cases that is with alcoholism or, some of those drugs, you got to just
I didn't.
Remember when they would put kids in the closet? You want to smoke? You like cigars, huh, Junior? All right, fine. Let's put you in the closet and make you smoke a lot of Daddy's Cubans. It's a pack of 12-year-old Cohibas. See if you smoke again, Junior. That works fine, by the way. That actually will work. It doesn't work for alcohol and some of the other things, but we've covered that, I think, thoroughly for a while anyway.
It was our presence. The presence was what was needed. If there just wasn't a big
What's happening now is that there's a desperation in our society for more market share, more money, more attention, more relevance, more of the now, more of the right now. Fuck the past, fuck the future. You never hear about our kids and what the government's going to do to help our schools and things like that anymore. Not on the campaign platforms anyway of the most recent elections. Not a lot about our kids and what we're going to do for our future. It's all about me. It's all about this moment because everybody is in absolute danger mode. And when we're being attacked, we get defensive. And when we get defensive, we turn inward, we get selfish. And when we get selfish, we're not nice to other people. It's such a concept that even Newton was into it, saying that, look guys, if there's black, there's white. If there's happy, there's sad. If there's rich, there's poor. That you can't have one without the other. And it's so true. I read today, someone said, if you believe there's two sides to every coin, then you also believe that there aren't two sides to every coin. Like I said, even this bishop guy, for 5 minutes before he did his thing, was him just asking for people to send him money because he sunk all of his money into this thing, he says. I don't know. There's some evidence that he did. But if he sunk all of his money and stuff, and stuff just so he could make more back off of the backs of kids that were abused and their stories, and that was what his intent was, then then his fruits will bear that. I don't have to be judgmental about him at all. He can just bear, his work's going to bear whatever fruit that it deserves. And right now, it's dying on the vine. He's lost because he just is just, like I said, the fire got to him. And by now, he's scheduled a tribunal with the elders where they all surround him and pepper him with questions about the color of his panties and then tell him, and then he repents and does all sorts of stuff, and then he has to go before his peers and say things and not partake in some of the sacrificial sort of things, ordinances.
Yeah. I know.
And outside of those walls, we don't care. He can have as much ice cream as he wants. He can smoke weed. we just don't. You do whatever you want to. All that stuff. Like they call me. Hey, your tribunals today. Can you imagine if somebody? Hey, your tribunal where we determine your worthiness is today. If you could just get in your car and come on down. It's like no. What is that? Why would I need that? No, I'm not coming to your... But see, this guy, that is his whole life is tied to this tribunal. Because he's still so ingrained in the culture and the beliefs and the dogma because his parents whispered into his ears as a kid on Fast and Testimony Sunday, and he hasn't known anything ever since, that even though this stuff struck him hard, they're just going to keep telling him and shocking him with cattle prods. We fixed it. It's done. It's over. We fixed it. All the victims are happy now. We've done all the things that the law has asked us to do. Our hands are clean. We're walking away from this. And he's that cartoon dog that the first chance he got to run, he took it. And he ran, and then all of a sudden that chain just grabs him and yanks him right back. Super hard, super fast. Oh, looks like we're done for the day. And it cuts off that communication that we had there for a minute with the perpetrators of their crime. Their victims were shouting out. Their people were saying, hey, I need help. And we're like, we're shouting back at them. Okay, we're trying. This is not a normal communication. I don't know you. I can't see you. I hear you shouting help. I'm shouting back. Okay, we're coming in. I'm going to put up a website. I'm going to videotape your story. I'm going to go, and they stop. Transmission stopped. And there's those victims. They're just still out there. I know, well, they said they were going to come, and that,
Just a good old boy.
Where are the Duke boys? And Cooter. So, updating you in these last few minutes of the show on my personal life seems, otherwise pretty useless. But I have fallen into yet another difficulty, and what happened is that I haven't paid thoroughly my state taxes, and I called and asked them for grace and said, "Hey, listen." Can I get some time on this? Explain to them my circumstances. And honestly, I forgot about it. But my circumstances haven't changed. But they, overnight, went in and took everything out of my checking account. And will continue to do that, I guess, until their bill is satisfied. And so I'm in this position where I'm just super angry and super disappointed. And when I act from that, originally when it first started happening, and I was acting from that place, I really feel like I stopped and viewed these concepts and said, what is it that I'm communicating? Who is it that I'm communicating it to? And What is my message? Right? You know, sometimes it can be a person, and you can be calling them and saying, hey, look, you guys drained my account. And if there's any way we can, you know, it's... They can't do anything. They're like a computer. They're like a stoplight. They pretend to be rigid and unable to bend on their laws. You know, but we think, oh, you know, this is another person, so maybe they're gonna see the thing. I know that, like, our newborn, she acknowledges that there's this dog sitting next to her all the time. It's really quite strange. And he is so protective of her. He bit me on the nose the other day because he thought that I was, while changing her diaper, was probably gonna, you know, like eat her or take a bite of her. And I love that about him, that he would be so protective, but it really did leave a pretty big sore. And am concerned about that. Anyway, the point is that she knows that no matter how long, she already knows that no matter how long she cries or carries on or anything like that, that this dog is not going to be of any help. At this point, if the dog jumped in and started changing the baby's diaper, the baby would, like, cry even more, because that's just not part of the norm around here. Okay, we don't have dogs changing diapers. Someday, we're working toward that. And so on the other side of that communication channel is this dog that, bless its little furry heart, is sending this vibe of protection, is sending this vibe of love. And it's no matter what, too. Like, I don't care that you're the owner, that you're the dad of this baby. You're not going to eat the baby. Nobody's eating babies while I'm on the watch. Right? Because the further away you get away from humanity, the closer you can get to the truth. And because for the most part, while dogs can scheme and they can do some things to work together to catch prey and things like that, for the most part, they're honest creatures. And they don't even understand why they would do anything other than what they're here to do. Whatever that is, they just do what they're compelled to do. I told you, did I tell you about the chicken? And the chickens just do what they do. They look at me like, why am I here? Do I have any other purpose? Nope, you're here to be a chicken. Eat the bugs, lay the eggs, go. And that is how they communicate with eternity. They make their eggs make more chickens that make more eggs. The egg figured out a way from Fargo, the TV show, which is brilliant, by the way. The egg figured out a way via chickens to make more eggs, is the answer to that riddle. So between now and the next show, because I have to go, sort of try and put my life back together again. And this is the end of the recording that we've been listening to now for 4 or 5, the day, I think. And so this is what all other shows sound like. Just me just coming up with stuff to say. I can't even handle this. I have to stop, because I got no show left until we start this next one. And I hope that you'll really start considering what we're doing here to make this an eternal being, this whole show and this whole concept, and the actions that it takes from here forward, the people that it helps, the causes that enlists it. And remember, some would say things have had to live for hundreds, if not millions of hundreds of thousands of years for you to exist today. And your existence will maybe allow other existence hundreds of millions later. So until next time, goodbye, so long, take care. good luck. Hope you have a good time. Hope you make a buck. Goodbye, so long, farewell, stay true, and remember, I love you. Stay true, and I do love you. Be safe out there. Go out there and add some life to somebody's life. Go add days. Just know, yep, I added some days to that person's life today. Next week, we're going to talk about sex and money. Part 2.